Outliers. The Story of Success by Malcolm Gladwell.
Hi, my name is Breana Jarrells, and this is my book review on the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell was born September 9th in 1963 in London, England. His father was a mathematics engineer professor at Waterloo University, and his mother practiced psychotherapy. Malcolm Gladwell is widely known for his New York #1 bestseller books, The Tipping Point in 2000, Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking in 2005, Outliers, The Story of Success in 2008, and What the Dog Saw and Other Adventures in 2009. Malcolm Gladwell graduated from the University of Ontario with a bachelor's degree in history. He was featured in Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People. He also worked for the Washington Post and the New Yorker. So these things and his education background are some of the things that make him very qualified to write this book. A quick summary of this book. Basically, Malcolm Gladwell tells different stories about successful people. He points out that they were given special opportunities that put them in a great place to be successful. Timing was another big factor in successful people's lives. They were at the right place at the right time, so to speak, or they were just plain born on a specific day that put them in a better position than other people. He talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Malcolm Gladwell was saying it took 10,000 hours of practice before a person became an expert in something that they were doing and whatever career choice that they were doing. So he talked about Bill Joy. I think this was a really neat story. He talked about how Bill Joy had access to computers before many people had access to computers as a college student at this facility that was about 10 minutes away from him, where he could walk to this place. He ended up finding a hack, which also brings about opportunity, to where he was able to be on the computers all day long for the maximum hours, and they couldn't stop it because they didn't know. And if it wasn't for him spending all that time and having that opportunity to be on that computer, he wouldn't have been able to access the computer for that amount of time and get his 10,000 hours before other people. So I think that was neat. Also, he talked about the Beatles and how they would practice for 7 days a week at 24 hours. 7 days a week for 24 hours a day at a band in a club, and they got that opportunity at a restaurant where they were bringing in a big crowd, and so that the club owner would ask them to work that amount, and they needed it because they were coming up band artists. So it worked out, and they got that great opportunity, and they accessed 10,000 hours before a lot of bands did, and a time when that was just coming up. So it showed those are two examples of ways that Gladwell used timing and opportunity to show how someone became successful. When it came to culture, I think this was another neat point that he talked about Korean culture and how in their language they have to talk to their superior a certain kind of way. Like they can't say certain things to the superior because of their superior, and that's just how their culture is. So they talked about how pilots used codes, and they were in situations where they were about to die, and because of the cultural background, the the people that were lower than the pilot, the crewmen, couldn't talk to their captain certain kind of way, so they can't be like, hey, emergency, we're about to die. They had to be like, they had a hint at it. There was 4 different ways he spoke about how they had to talk in their language, but basically they had to hint at it, and it ended up being where a lot of planes had crashed at that time because of the cultural background of those pilots. So it does show you how your cultural background can depend on your success, and that for that instance it ended up killing those people because they couldn't overlook their culture to do their job. So it does show how culture, that's one example of how culture was a big deal. So that's why I really think for this book summary I let you know that timing, opportunity, and culture are some really good things that Malcolm Gladwell put a magnifying glass on to explain how those people became successful in brilliant stories. Structural functionalism. I chose structural functionalism to show the perspective of this book because I do feel like Gladwell was looking for from a more macro level when he was explaining these stories and these key points, because any time of the day, being a successful person helps the society. It brings the society money. It preaches socioeconomic success. I put on my board here that he really preached a lot about hard work equals success. And he talked a lot about the importance of education. So I think that was a big deal. I drew the staircase because I wanted you to see that he wanted you to work your way up to the top to be successful. All those successful stories that he talked about in that book had that common theme in some which way. And the successful people just seem to have better opportunities, better timing and things down to their birth date. And they came from a really neat cultural background that put them at an advantage to succeed. And I think that's what Gladwell really tapped into a book that could help the community, the society overall, looking at it from the big picture. And here are some reviews. Malcolm's Almanac. He said that Gladwell had a political purpose. He said that it highlighted educational controversies. Anderson did not like his writing style at all. And then he even said something that was kind of borderline nice. He said that Outliers exemplifies Gladwell's extraordinary talent for translating dry academic research and the behavior sciences into vivid storytelling. I really enjoyed reading this book, mostly because it was based on real people's stories. It was a lot of storytelling. So it was really easy to read. The book had a really nice flow to it. It really kept me engaged into the reading with his style of writing. His book was really motivational. I think anybody would want to read a motivational book, a book that's gonna get you ready and teach you about success. I think a really good take back I got from this book, knowing the disadvantages that you do have in life becomes advantages that you have towards being successful. Some additional resources that I think will be really nice to check out is Think RTVs. It's a YouTube video. It's called Are You an Outlier? And it basically are some of the reactions to other kind of people, some of them being famous, about the Outlier book and what they thought about it. And I think it was really neat and interesting, and it gives you other people's point of views. And I think feedback is a one way to really understand a book. So I think that's a really good additional resource that you can check out.